How is it rocking, Dwayne Nation? Stay here because we are just about to get underway. In the meantime, please like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. We put out weekly sports content, and we want to continue to build up Dwayne Nation and the brand that is Dwayne Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy. Welcome in, Dwayne Nation. This is your host, Justin Pius, alongside Genoa Agudelo. We got JoJo Agudelo here as a guest star, and John Michael Tribula. Welcome into the podcast today, guys. I'm so excited that we get 2 guest appearances. It means double the fun and double the takes because we got a lot to cover heading into week 7, especially a couple big trades that were on the horizon with the Jets and the Bills. But before we do that, I'd like to see how my guests are feeling about this week and how you guys are doing. I'll start it off with John Michael. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate y'all having me because I got a lot to say for this week in particular. But yeah, we're feeling good. A lot of sports ahead of us. I can't wait to see this weekend.
Yes, sir. JoJo, how are you doing?
What's up, Jets? My bad, bro. You cut off there. What did you say?
How you doing? I'm excited to have you on the pod today.
All right. Sorry, you weren't moving on the screen. I got a little worried there, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm a little bit nervous for the Texans, but besides that, I'm excited for this week. We got some great matchups. Even like the Monday night matchup. I'm feeling good about this week. I'm loving it. Thanks for having me again.
Of course, man. And Genoa, you got your bro on the podcast. You got a friend. How we doing?
Yo, Dewey Nation, I'm doing good. John Michael, JoJo, welcome back to the podcast. John Michael, welcome, man. It's good to have you guys, man. I'm excited to talk about this week, man. This season's been so much fun, so interesting, and really chaotic. So I'm excited to break down and kind of hear what other people think. What are the best teams, as well as fantasy, who to start. We have some crazy trades around the league, Justin. So I'm excited to dig down and really talk about it.
Yeah, right off the top, the first one that came out of nowhere, I guess not really. We've been hearing the rumblings, and Adams has been injured and out of games. Davante Adams is headed to New York for the Jets to, rejoin his former quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. We saw the whole Pat McAfee thing. He's all back, and he's excited to go, and he's fully participating. So I don't know what happened to that hamstring, but I guess it's all good now. But, we are an NFL fantasy football podcast. And I'm really interested now that John Michael, that you have a star wide receiver added to your division, to one of your rivals. How do you feel about the Jets now with Davante Adams?
The Jets and the Bills saw Drake May play one game, and they felt like they both had to trade for a star wide receiver to combat him. So Davante Adams to the Jets, I don't want to say worrisome because I feel like their O-line's a bigger problem than their weapons because they already have Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin's all right. Alan Lazard literally just caught a 50-yard touchdown from Aaron Rodgers. Like, he has good weapons. It's literally just been their play calling and the fact that Aaron Rodgers could not move 5 yards in 5 seconds. So other than that, it's a decent trade, but for what was it, a third and a conditional second?
I think it's a third that could become a second.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's bigger problems on their team than the wide receivers, but Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams makes them happy, pairs them back up, so you can't hate it. Does it worry me though? No, because Christian Gonzalez will hold them to 0 yards, whatnot. It's all good. Not even worried.
I love the Patriots fan in the house. That's a good answer there. JoJo, what do you think though with Adams in New York?
Can we all say that we kind of saw this coming? It's like they couldn't really break up without getting back together. I feel like I just think Adams was in a terrible situation in Las Vegas, and I'm kind of glad that he got out of there. He never really had a steady quarterback, especially not a Super Bowl winning previous MVP quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. I just think that there is still a little bit of complacency, a little bit of vacancy in that Jets team still. Even with Adams being brought to Jets, like John Michael said, the O-line, that is a big problem. Aaron Rodgers is not how he used to be. He can't run out of there and do like, Lamar Jackson things, of course, but we'll just see if this connection is what it used to be, and that's the main thing. If they can get that connection going again, then the Jets have upgraded heavily on offense, and it just depends on the executor. I think it's only a beneficial move in my opinion to the Jets.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with JoJo, but I'm going to take it a step further, Justin, and my guests here. I think this is actually going to push the Jets up there to kind of challenge the Bills and the Patriots in that division, really. I think that Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers are going to pick up where they left off, and that starts this Sunday night in Pittsburgh. I think that maybe we could see a potential touchdown for Davante Adams or kind of near 100 yards. I don't think it both happens, but one of the two does happen. I also, if you're Garrett Wilson, I've been seeing kind of a lot of people give feedback. Garrett Wilson owners in fantasy are a little concerned. I actually think it helps Garrett Wilson. He's not going to be drawing as much attention as we think. A guy like Christian Gonzalez, he's going to have to be covering Davante Adams when the Jets and Patriots match up, and as well as like the Dolphins when they have Jalen Ramsey and whoever the Bills have. And so there's going to be a lot of difficulty guarding this offense, as well as this tough rushing attack with Brees Hall and Braylon Allen. And this Jets team is now taking the step, closer to making that division more competitive. They are currently 2-4 right now. I do think that I do like their chances this weekend in Pittsburgh, but I think they're gonna pick up where they left off in Green Bay, and I do think it's gonna be dynamite there in New York.
I kind of completely agree with you. I think this team needed an extra spark. The fact that obviously Aaron Rodgers and Adams have history, have the chemistry, it's just going to make Adams more of a priority target, and then Garrett Wilson's not going to get all that attention as you mentioned, being the number one, and it's going to be very good for them. On the flip side of that, though, looking at now this Raiders team that has Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker and Brock Bowers. It's getting ugly down in Las Vegas, and I actually could see that maybe poor Antonio Pierce could be out after one season with the team, even though it was kind of like Adams and Crosby were like, we need him or we're wanting to leave. Now it's just looking bad, and he's a solid coach, but I just don't think he's going to last with this Raiders team, and it just continues to show that this Raiders franchise, I don't know if it's like owners create continual like failures. Like we've seen it with the Jets, with the Raiders, the Browns, like if it's just that bad. And I'm just curious to see, JoJo, I guess particularly, what do you think with this Raiders team? Is there any positives out of it?
I mean, it might just be the defense. I mean, we saw how they came and played when they went into Baltimore, but other than that, Justin, I'm with you. I don't see anything good on this Raiders team. I mean, I'm seriously just questioning what they were thinking going to the season, thinking that Minshew or McConnell would be the answer, and I don't understand how, as a NFL GM, you could see or you can think that would be an answer. I think they're already doomed from the start, in my opinion. But I mean, what do you do from here? That's the main thing. And you lose Davante Adams, but what now? Like you're saying, I do think Pierce could potentially be gone. But after that, you got to start thinking they have to start making some sort of move for a quarterback at least, or some sort of stand and firming quarterback that could be the future for them because they just haven't had that.
And John Michael, what do you think? This team is pretty depleted, especially on the offensive side.
Well, to answer your question from earlier, the one positive that they have as of recently is now that the GOAT, Tom Brady, is a minority stake owner in the franchise. I think he has 5% of the franchise now.
That's right.
And then Richard Seymour, another Patriots Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winner, is 0.5% minority stake owner in the team. Tom Brady said his first move that he wants as a stake owner now is to see if Bill Belichick wants to be the head coach. That would turn a franchise around, in my opinion. Not so much maybe the offense, but definitely on the defensive side, because they have the weapons on defense. They just always lack in, like you said, the ownership and the coaching to actually utilize the weapons. I mean, if you have a star in Max Crosby on defense and a star in Davante Adams and Brock Bowers, and they had Josh Jacobs, and they weren't able to utilize all these stars, it just comes down to ownership and coaching. So if they're able to utilize the stars when they have them, they'd be a lot better off. But right now, like JoJo said, they got one big problem at their feet right now that they need to address, and they need to get a quarterback. At this point, if it's from the draft, free agency, a trade, that's up to them, but they have nobody to throw the rock to anybody. Mm-hmm. So until they get that resolved, it's who knows with them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out and say that they might be possibly kind of tanking there. With Tom Brady just joining, I think he's gonna focus on his broadcast career and obviously keep tabs throughout the season on the Raiders. But when offseason hits, there could be a chance that Antonio Pierce is out there. You got to remember, Tom Brady faced Antonio Pierce in the Super Bowl in 2008, and he was a part of that Giants team. So I don't know if he kind of, I don't think that he doesn't like him there or anything like that, but I think there's a little bit of a cloud there, and he's not really digging it. He kind of wants to bring his guy Bill there. And hey, why not? They do have a star, Brock Bowers, that can be their next Gronk. They do have Jacoby Myers, who's a former Patriot. They do have somewhat of a running game, which I think they'll address in the offseason. They did. We thought they had something with Zamir White, and Alexander Madison came from Minnesota. We thought he was gonna, help out. Maybe it looks like Madison's kind of taking over, and Zamir White's kind of pushed in the back. They also been thrown there like Amir Abdullah, so it kind of feels like they're kind of tanking it somewhat, and they could end up with a top 5, top 7 pick. Maybe Shador, maybe like a Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon, maybe something like that. But now that they've gotten rid of Davante Adams, they're going to need to find a way to get a star receiver this offseason. I'm not expecting much from the Raiders going forward. If we're thinking fantasy, maybe like Madison and Bowers, you're definitely starting Bowers. Maybe Madison, you're not starting this Raiders defense. And, what JoJo said, we did not know what they were thinking. And did they really think they were going to challenge the reigning champion Chiefs in that division with, Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew? Like, no, Gardner Minshew's been on like 5 or 6 teams in the last 5 or 6 years. This guy's not going to win you any game. So I think what the Raiders are heading towards is just a rebuild, kind of just see what they got, like maybe going on a fire sale at the end of the season. Maybe they could clean house, and hey, maybe they could bring the legendary Bill Belichick out of retirement.
That'd be super interesting. John Michael, I think is a perfect point. If Bill Belichick can come into the picture, that'd be helpful. But this team is in serious need: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive line. The secondary is in big trouble. There's a lot they need to fix. The draft is pretty solid heading into next year. I don't know if they're going to want to jump on Shador or Quinn, or you mentioned Dylan Gabriel. Those would kind of be interesting names. None are too shiny. But this trade is it's through now. We're going to have Davante Adams this week. He actually just played, or I guess he didn't play, but his former team played the Steelers. Now his team's playing the Steelers this week. Interesting coincidence. But we're pretty high with the Jets now. We think Adams and Garrett Wilson are going to be still solid fantasy plays. And then on the Raiders side, as you mentioned, Brock Bowers is probably the only guy worth any look, but he's a must start. And then moving to the next trade that also affects this Patriots division, the Bills acquire Amari Cooper from the Cleveland Browns in a trade that made was it yesterday, 2 days ago, like a shock fest. We were like, oh my God, Adams got traded. And then we didn't get to breathe much longer before, oh my gosh, Amari Cooper got traded. So 2 big trades happened. And then, of course, the other big trade, Cam Akers to the Vikings. But, Amari Cooper is now a Bill. And it's super exciting for Josh, to me, for Amari Cooper's fantasy value, Josh Allen's fantasy value. Maybe not the other Bills, pass catchers, but I'm excited with Amari Cooper in town. John Michael, what do you think, though, with this move for Amari Cooper to the Bills?
Well, personally, I love it because I have Amari Cooper in like 2 leagues, so I think his fantasy value has skyrocketed. As far as for the other Bills pass catchers, though, my question to that is, what other Bills pass catchers aside from Dalton Kincaid are there? Really, I mean, he's throwing touchdowns to Mac Hollins of all people, like and Shakir. I know he went to Boise State, so I like him, but like, come on, like we don't even remember half those names that he's throwing to right now from like 2 seasons ago. So it's like, all it does is it really helps, in my opinion, Dalton Kincaid, because he's not going to get focused on as much. Hopefully it gives Keon Coleman some time to grow, so that way he can get into something, develop. Yeah. But I love the trade. Amari Cooper gets out of Dallas. Josh Allen gets a number 1 again. It just helps all around. Is it an overreaction to seeing Drake May play for the first time from the Bills? Maybe just for Amari Cooper to get 2 catches for 7 yards against Christian Gonzalez. It's whatever. But no, I love the trade all around.
Nice. And JoJo, I want to ask you the same thoughts. What are your thoughts with Amari Cooper to the Bills? But I also want to jump on, do you still rank Davante Adams as of right now over Amari Cooper in your, like, in a fantasy league per se?
Well, you know what, Justin, first of all, regarding like the impact of this move, I mean, if you're Amari Cooper, you got to be you got to be some sort of happy, right? I mean, this is like a new breath. I mean, if you're coming from Cleveland with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, and you're going into like Disney World now, like you have like a great environment around you. You have top 3 quarterback with you, and you have a playoff contending team. You go from one of the worst teams to a playoff contending team, and I just think that is like an amazing thing for Amari Cooper. I'm really happy for him. I do think this trade is obviously it's more impactful to Bills than Davante is more impactful to Jets, if that makes sense. I think that Josh Allen acquiring a weapon like this, it's a little bit scary, and maybe they can be more aggressive and I don't know, do something in the future. But I mean, this is a first step from losing Diggs and losing Gabe Davis. I think this is awesome for Bills. And in terms of fantasy wise, man, I will say I think Amari Cooper has a better, some sort of better value in my opinion. I think he was still doing stuff on the Browns. He was still performing in some weeks, better than Davante. And Amari Cooper is a baller. I mean, we've seen it. I'm looking forward to look how it turns out, but I do think Amari Cooper has a slight edge on value than Davante Adams is.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and actually disagree with JoJo here. I think Davante Adams has a better a value. I think he is a little bit more in his prime than Amari Cooper is. And it's that chemistry that A Rod and Davante Adams had and now have again. I feel like they do have Nathaniel Hackett there. I don't think he's calling play calls all the way there, but I think that he provides some help for that Jets offense. And I do think that the running game is so much better in New York than it is really in Buffalo. We don't think we'll see James Cook there. He is still struggling with a turf toe, I believe the injury is, and he's questionable for this weekend's game against the Titans. Looking at Davante Adams, though, he had a great game week 2 against the Ravens. And then that next week they lost to Carolina, and he pretty much said, I'm done. I'm out of here. So I do think that he is still in his prime. I think they're going to really pick up where they left off in New York. And I do think that with Amari Cooper, though, this is the best quarterback he's played with outside of Dak Prescott. And he had all these, quarterbacks in when they were the Oakland Raiders. He did have Derek Carr, and he had a couple other, I think it was like Mike Glenn and like Connor Cook, some of like these other quarterbacks. So this is definitely the best arm he's getting, catches from. So definitely like Amari Cooper to potentially reach 1,000 yards this season. With Davante Adams, it's a no-brainer that he will reach 1,000 yards receiving this season.
Interesting. I think that's interesting take. I'm actually leaning more to the JoJo side. I have high hopes for Amari Cooper and the history we've seen when Josh Allen has kind of that star one wide receiver. Where Adams, yes, he has the chemistry. He's got Aaron Rodgers, and he's good. But I think Garrett Wilson's going to do enough to where there's going to be more of a balance between the two. But I still think all Adams, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper are all going to be good pieces. So I agree. This makes the Bills kind of dangerous as well as the Jets. But on the flip side, as we mentioned with the Raiders, now we got to talk about the Browns, who now are very depleted with Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, and David Njoku. They do have the return of Nick Chubb this weekend. But John Michael, what do you think? Is there anybody in fantasy that you're kind of interested in on the Browns, and what's the outlook for them in the future?
Yeah, so my interest, I've always been interested in David Njoku in fantasy, just because he has always brought great value. He even did last year, but that was obviously with Joe Flacco. He's still doing his best. I know he was injured a couple games this season, so he hasn't been able to perform. But now I have Nick Chubb in like 2 leagues. He's been sitting on my IR spot all year just because I know that he's like 28. He said it himself. That's like 57 in running back years.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's been thrown 2 major injuries in his career. But if he does bounce back, I feel like there's a high upside because at the end of the day, their O-line is still pretty solid. Their passing game is really bad because of Deshaun Watson, but all Nick Chubb does is open up the offensive play calling a ton just because we know what he can do. He's a full tank whenever he's running downhill. That's going to open up play actions, more passing game for him. But at the end of the day, I'm hoping Nick Chubb comes back from this injury because I like him a lot. And I see he could probably, actually not probably, he'll easily jump into the number 1 fantasy stock for the Browns. Like it's him and Njoku just going to go back and forth. I mean, what the floor and the ceiling is for them, that's to be determined on how good the offense is. But I feel like Nick Chubb will have a lot of fantasy value in like maybe not this week, but like give it like 2-3 weeks. I feel like whenever he's fully worked back into the offense and fully immersed again in the NFL season, I feel like he'll be a top like 10 running back in fantasy.
Interesting. And I want to have a quick follow-up to that. The fact that would things change in your mind if the Browns gained some sense and decided to start Jameis Winston over Deshaun Watson?
Oh, I love that actually. Wait, I love that. I feel like at this point, I mean, like from what we've seen with Deshaun, I feel like so you're kind of gambling on the same thing with Jameis and Deshaun. At the end of the day, it comes down to a lot to their decision making and their reads with their game. But at least Jameis has I would say Jameis has the upper hand on the arm strength. And I feel like he could fit the ball into tighter windows than Deshaun can right now. I feel like ever since Deshaun's come back, his arm hasn't been the same as what we saw it was in Houston. I don't know. I could be mistaken, but I feel like Jameis Winston just has a little upgrade there in terms of that. I feel like you put Nick Chubb to open up the pass game, and then you throw in Jameis Winston just to try it out. You open up the play action, go deep. I feel like Jameis Winston could unlock the Browns' offense, especially their deep game, because Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy, don't give me like Jerry Judy's a great route runner, and Njoku is obviously a top 10 tight end in the league easily. I feel like the deep ball from Jameis could definitely change the whole offensive play calling, offensive game plan for the Browns.
What do you think on that, JoJo?
You know, I'm just not high on the Browns. I just don't think they're a good team, and especially like with Deshaun Watson, that is the main problem right now. I mean, I saw something they couldn't convert a third down versus Philadelphia last week, and I just think that is awful as a team and as a coach. You need to make that call. I don't care how much you're paying Deshaun Watson. It's about how much you want to win, and I think they're just concerned on the paycheck that they're paying him, and they think they need to use him. Which, I mean, that's a mistake on its own, but you got to consider winning at this point. And I do think that Jameis Winston would be some sort of higher value, and obviously including Nick Chubb's return, that would also be great too. But I just think this Browns team is just lacking something. I don't know what it is. You have a great defense. I mean, I feel like they're wasting Myles Garrett's career there a little bit. I just think that they're missing something, and it might just be, just a quarterback, or it might just be maybe a new coach. I mean, maybe it's time to explore new coaches. I don't know what it is. I just don't see a potential. I don't see a huge increase in the production of Cleveland, regardless of what they do. And I feel bad for Nick Chubb returning from a tough injury to only come to this team. I mean, he's gonna find out real quick that it's not the team that he used to play for.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and agree somewhat with JoJo there. With the Browns, they have some offensive line injuries there. I think Wyatt Teller is out for the year, but Jedrick Willis looks to be coming back there. He's questionable for this weekend's game, so the offensive line is looking in there. And Justin, answer your question as far as the quarterback change. Obviously they're paying Deshaun Watson all this money, so I think Kevin Stefanski feels gun-ho to kind of just roll with Deshaun Watson throughout the year, and maybe the offseason they can address on what to go forward. But, with Jameis Winston, I feel like he has, what John was saying, he does have the arm, but he also has the charisma. I feel like we all know Jameis Winston, a goofy guy, but a really good quarterback. And I think he's going to do his best to encourage the team to win football games. With Deshaun Watson, he just looks defeated. He just doesn't look all the way there. It looks as if, he's, being controlled by a shadow or something. There's something not all the way there. Like what you mentioned, Justin, maybe his off the field issues have caught up to him mentally and just kind of controlled him. And I think that it's getting worse by the week. And they're not able to, execute this offense at a high level. Kevin Stefanski is one of the better head coaches in the league. It's sad to see that his team is 1-5 there, Justin. So I think that, eventually by week 10, if this still carries on, I think that Jameis Winston is a guy that you have to go to. And, hey, is it too late to call Indianapolis and see if you can get Joe Flacco back? Because, I mean, man, Justin, do they need Joe Flacco back? The future Hall of Famer, Grandpa Joe Flacco.
Maybe they do and it's weird that they didn't even offer him a contract to come back after he did so well for them, one comeback player, and made a playoff berth. It's crazy to think, but the way I look at this whole thing and why they're still starting Deshaun Watson, I think it's a clear ownership decision. I think they're looking at it like, all right, we paid him this much. And actually, I think they want to tank. I think they know, okay, obviously Watson's not the future. Nobody behind him's our next franchise quarterback. Let's just say we have to play Deshaun Watson because we're paying him so much and just keep losing games, then get a high draft pick and try to find your next franchise quarterback. I think that's kind of how their mindset is, because I think Stefanski's a good coach. I mean, he's won Coach of the Year twice since he's been in Cleveland. So he's got something. He's not doing, like, I don't know. He's got the goods to me. I think he's a good play caller, and we saw it with Joe Flacco. But yeah, I think they're just holding in Watson there for whatever reason, just to tank and lose, which is sad and it's tough for football watchers, for Browns fans. But I would love Jameis to get in as a starting quarterback, change the game. He's such a happy passer. I would love to have him there. But yeah, that wraps up our coverage of the trade, kind of the full in-depth analysis of Davante Adams to New York and Amari Cooper. Oh my God, Amari Cooper to Buffalo. We all think that it's pretty good all around. The teams that they are leaving, they're kind of in a rebuild phase. It might look like, or just in a phase where we are worried for them. But yeah, that is all we have. We're going to be covering more game predictions. All four of us are going to discuss all the winners of every single game going in our next episode, and also bold predictions for Week 7. I can't believe it's Week 7 already. JoJo, John Michael, thanks for joining. Genoa, as always, send us out.
Yo, Dwayne Nation, thanks for watching. We had some blockbuster trades go on this week, so we're so excited to see how they pan out this week. And it's going to be such a fun weekend of football to watch. JoJo, John Michael, thanks for joining us. Justin, my brothers, it was a great episode. We'll see all you guys in the next episode, Dwayne Nation. We love you guys, and thanks for watching. And as always, peace.